We're able to identify those victims today and provide those to you. Many of you have already discovered who they are through social media. I would caution you, please don't be listening to factual information from social media. That is not where you will find your facts. I will keep you informed. I will make sure that you have what we have as we are able to release it to you for the integrity of the case. If you have questions, please reach out to our media services here at the Sheriff's Office. What we're able to give you, we will. One of the victims, when deputies arrived, was still alive. He immediately began CPR. Unfortunately, he died at the hospital. The victims are here. Eladio Perez, 52 years of age. Marcos Perez, 19 years of age. Jennifer Anaya, 49 years of age. Rosa Perez, 72 years of age. Alyssa Perez, 16 years of age. And Nicholas Perez, 10 months of age. I'd like to make a correction. On scene that night, we believe that the young teenage female was 17 years old. In fact, we later learned that she was 16 years old, and I believe I put out that she was 17. We also believed at the time that the infant was 6 months old. We later learned that it was 10 months old. So I want to make that correction for all of you today. She was 16, and the small infant was 10 months old. She was found, along with the infant, laying next to her mother, his mother, down the street. We believe that the 16-year-old teenage mother and her small infant actually was fleeing and running from the scene. What we have since learned through forensics, that it was clear that the shooters stood over the top of the 16-year-old mother and fired rounds into her head. The 10-month-old infant also suffered from the same attack into her head. The 10-month-old infant also suffered from the same attack. None of this was by accident. Into her head. The 10-month-old infant also suffered from the same attack. None of this was by accident. It was deliberate, intentional, and horrific. I will tell you this. We do know of 3 surviving victims from this, what we're describing as a massacre. 3. We will be interviewing them and collecting as much information as we can. There was one person inside the home hiding as they could hear the gunfire erupting inside the home. The description from him is that he was in such a state of fear that all he could do was hold the door, hoping that he was not the next victim. Detectives, at this point, we do believe that we are in the search for 2 known suspects. Potentially a third in an escape vehicle, but we don't know that to be true. This is going off a hypothesis from law enforcement. But we do know that, in fact, we have 2 suspects. It is very clear that this family was a target, and that there are gang associations involved, as well as drug investigations with us in this home. But let me make this very clear. Not all these people in this home were gang members, and not all of these people in this home were drug dealers. The 16-year-old female is an innocent victim. The grandmother inside appears to be an innocent victim, and definitely this 10-month-old child is an innocent victim. I'll tell you a little bit of the history of the home. On January 3rd of this year, Tulare County Sheriff's Office patrol officers conducted what we call a parole compliance check. Basically what that is when we know people who are on felony parole and are in the community, we will stop and make sure that they're abiding by the law. This compliance check done on January 3rd is the same home where the massacre occurred on Monday. This is a known home to our department. This is where gang activity has routinely occurred in the past. During that compliance check, deputies saw shell casings laying on the ground outside the home. When asked if we could go inside and search, they refused, and that's where the search warrant was written. We obtained a legal search warrant from a judge, and we were able to do a search warrant of the home. And we found Eladio Perez, who was already on felony convictions.
Sandy and Pedro, a massive manhunt continues tonight for those responsible for massacring 6 family members. Tulare County Sheriff's officials say they're looking for at least 2 suspects, possibly 3, who carried out these cartel-style executions.
What we have since learned through forensics, that it was clear that the shooters stood over the top of this 16-year-old mother.
The brutal murder of an innocent Bronx teen finally coming to a close nearly 5 years later.
The last of the gang members found responsible for the death of 15-year-old Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz were sentenced today.
Fox 5's Ashley Rodriguez was in the courtroom, and she joins us live with those details. Ashley.
Well, finally, justice is served in the gruesome death of Junior. It was caught on camera, shocking not just New York City, but the entire country, as millions of people demanded that these 13 gang members pay for what they did. One by one, the last of the 13 Los Sudes Trinitarios gang members accused of brutally killing 15-year-old Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz in 2018 sat in chains before Judge Ralph Fabrizio, with Junior's mother looking on.
All of these men, and I say men, took part in one of the most disturbing murders that this city and this nation has ever seen.
In June 2018, the gang members were trying to kill a rival in the Bronx. Thinking 15-year-old Junior was their guy, they chased the teen for blocks. Junior ran into a bodega to hide, but they dragged him out under the lens of surveillance cameras. Using large knives and a machete, the men stabbed away at Junior, leaving him to crawl to St. Barnabas Hospital, where he collapsed and died. Video of the horrific attack circulated in the city and nationwide as millions of shocked people demanded these gangbangers pay for what they did.
I don't want to see another mother, never, to lose his son in the way I lose my son, Junior. I don't want to see nobody go through that.
Junior's mother, Leandra, stood in court Friday asking the judge for life sentences. Instead, Daniel Fernandez, Jose Tavares, Gabriel Ramirez Concepcion, Danilo Payams Pacheco, and Ronald Urena each received 12 to 18 years, joining 8 others already behind bars, 7 which are serving life.
You may think that joining a gang is going to help you get money or protection, but in the end, it will destroy you.
Judge Fabrizio spoke directly to Leandra after sentencing the last gang member, telling her after 5 years of waiting for justice, this is the last page of the final chapter of a very long case. But he understands her and her family's wounds will never close.
I'm still waiting for the divine justice. The divine justice has to come for them too.
The judge apologized.
If you're worried about your eyesight, try adding this delicious liquid to a glass of water before bed.
I'm Grace White. Many people don't realize the night rapper Takeoff was shot and killed in Houston. There were other people injured. One of them is 24-year-old Sydney Leday. She was shot in the head in the early morning hours of November 1st, spent a week in the hospital, and says it's a miracle she survived. Leday is born and raised in Houston and says she's been leaning on her family for support. It's a story we've been working on for months and waiting until she was ready to tell her story. In her first interview, she talks with us about what it was like being there that night and the wounds she's still recovering from, physically and emotionally. Sydney, first, tell us how you're doing.
Every day is different. I'm going through different emotions. I haven't saw a therapist or anything, so most days I'm happy. Most days, I could just to sum it up, it's a mix of emotions. So I have random times where I feel angry, a lot of, I wouldn't say sadness. It's, I have feelings of being grateful that I am still here.
You've made a miraculous recovery. Tell us what you've been through.
I really just can say I'm just grateful to be here, and it's just like sometimes unreal.
Do you remember the moment you first woke up in the hospital?
Everybody was around me. Well, when I first woke up, like I said, I didn't want to be there. I kept telling my mom I want to go home. I had never been in a hospital like that, but I remembered what happened because when I was up the whole time after I got shot in the head, and I called my mom and told her what happened and to come.
You called your mom after you were shot?
Yeah, and I told her to come to the hospital, but I ended up having a seizure, so I was on the phone with her the whole time. And
so you knew exactly what had happened and why you were in the hospital?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but everybody was around me. My mom, my aunts, my grandma.
I know you said you knew why you were in the hospital, but did you understand the extent of your injuries and what you had survived?
Yes, I did. I was up for the whole thing. I felt the sting in the back of my head. I felt myself falling. And the person I was with picked me up and we got in the car, but it was like a scary movie, really. Ironically, it was Halloween night. I had on a nun outfit. I had blood all over me. And
you had dressed up for Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was still my birthday weekend, so.
You had just turned 24.
Yeah. So, I mean, like any other 24-year-old, I was just out partying and celebrating because I really never dressed up for Halloween, and that was something I was excited about.
Did you know the people there that night? Did you know Takeoff was there?
Yeah, I saw everybody. I'm used.
At any point,
like that part was even worse than the actual being shot.
Here it goes.
We're joined exclusively now by Brandon Shea, who wrestled the gun away from the shooter at the second dance hall. You saw in Juju's piece the video, the surveillance video of him doing that. Brandon, first and foremost, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well this morning. Thank you for asking.
Well, I don't know. No one can imagine what it must have been like to confront the gunman as you did. Just can you, in your own words, just tell us what you did, how you did it, and just what was going through your mind as this was going on?
Well, it was Chinese New Year's. We were hosting a social dance party. I was in the lobby. It was late into the evening. Most of our customers already left. I wasn't paying attention to the front door. I was looking into the dance ballroom, the dance floor, and this is when I heard the sound of the front door creaking closing, and instantly followed by the sound of a metal object clinking together as if they were rubbing.